This sign welcomes millions of travelers to Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. In 2006, it was the busiest aviation hub in the United States, managing hundreds of thousands of flights a year. It is a hyper-regulated environment where every single movement on the tarmac and in the sky is meticulously tracked, scheduled, and recorded. Yet a massive gap in that surveillance grid opened up on the afternoon of November 7, 2006. At exactly 4:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, the routine flow of outbound traffic was interrupted by an anomaly centered directly over gate C17. A ramp employee was in the middle of pushing back United Airlines Flight 446 for a departure to North Carolina. When he looked up, he saw a silent, dark gray, metallic disc hovering perfectly still right above the aircraft. He immediately radioed the flight crew. The pilots in the Boeing 737 opened their cockpit windows, leaned out, and saw the exact same thing. Within minutes, the object was being observed by at least a dozen professional witnesses on the ground, including airframe mechanics and airline management. These are professionals who spend their entire working lives identifying and servicing conventional aircraft. They know the exact profile of a Boeing or an Airbus. The consistency of their reports eliminates the likelihood of a simple misidentification. They were looking at a structured, physical craft occupying restricted airspace. This animation reconstructs the climax of the encounter. After hovering in place for up to 15 minutes, the object executed a high-velocity vertical ascent, shooting straight up into the dense 1,900-foot cloud ceiling. What stood out to the mechanics watching from below was the complete absence of conventional propulsion. A craft accelerating vertically at that speed should produce deafening noise, massive thermal exhaust, or immense rotor wash. This object produced absolutely nothing. It was entirely silent. This illustration depicts the immediate physical aftermath of that departure. The object punched a perfectly circular void through the thick, overcast layer of the sky, creating a clear blue hole surrounded by dense gray clouds. That sharp, geometric break in the cloud deck did not immediately dissipate. Witnesses observed the atmospheric scar lingering directly above gate C17 for up to 14 minutes before the surrounding weather slowly filled it back in. The existence of that hole moves this event out of the realm of an optical illusion. It requires a tremendous amount of localized thermal energy or physical displacement to clear thousands of pounds of supercooled water droplets. The object physically interacted with the local environment. This photograph illustrates the type of thick, low-hanging overcast clouds blanketing the airport that day. Despite the dozen eyewitnesses, the Federal Aviation Administration dismissed the entire event as a trick of the weather. Their primary justification was that O'Hare's multi-million-dollar sensor arrays failed to detect any primary or secondary radar returns. This animated diagram demonstrates exactly how that radar failure can happen. Modern air traffic control systems rely heavily on Doppler filters, designed to prune out stationary ground details, like tall buildings, so controllers only see moving aircraft. Because the craft over gate C17 was hovering perfectly still for over 10 minutes, it matched the exact mathematical profile of a building. The system's logic actively filtered the object out as background noise, rendering it electronically invisible. The lack of a radar return is often used to prove that an object never existed. In this case, it simply proves that the object operated outside the specific parameters the aviation grid was programmed to track.
To understand exactly how a physical craft could hover silently and accelerate vertically without a thermal exhaust plume, theoretical physicists have analyzed the witness reports through the lens of an Alcubierre warp drive. Proposed by physicist Miguel Alcubierre, this is a mathematical model that allows a spacecraft to travel by bending the fabric of space itself. In this diagram, we see the mechanics of a field effect propulsion system. Instead of thrusting fuel out the back, a warp drive moves by contracting space in front of the craft and expanding space behind it. This creates an isolated warp bubble, which would allow for the near-instantaneous vertical acceleration reported by the United Airlines crew. Even the specific shape reported by the witnesses aligns with this physics model. Flat elliptical geometries dramatically reduce the energy density required to maintain a functional warp metric, making a saucer the optimal design for bending spacetime. While entirely theoretical, the math fits the data.
The O'Hare incident provides a rare set of consistent professional observations that perfectly match the predicted atmospheric and flight signatures of advanced non-conventional propulsion. In the immediate aftermath, United Airlines internally handled the situation by requesting written reports and drawings from the witnesses, while advising them to remain silent. It was a rapid shift into damage control. This is the Chicago Tribune building, where investigative journalist John Hilkovich broke through that silence. He filed a Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, request. FOIA is a federal law that requires government agencies to disclose internal records and communications to the public upon request. Hilkovich used FOIA to obtain the internal air traffic control audio from that afternoon. The tapes proved that United Airlines employees had explicitly called the tower to report a flying disc, and that FAA managers actively discussed the sighting while it was happening. Looking at the FAA headquarters here, you have an agency whose official public statement claimed they had no knowledge of any event. The audio tapes proved they were fully aware of the object in real time, yet they still opted to dismiss the incident as a weather phenomenon. The agency is legally mandated to manage Class B airspace and investigate potential collision risks. By refusing to probe the incident, they prioritized bureaucratic convenience over evaluating a major security vulnerability over one of the world's busiest runways. The O'Hare incident is heavily documented by capable observers, yet the immediate suppression of their reports remains the most significant unresolved detail of the encounter. As we watch this United Boeing aircraft land at O'Hare, it is a reminder of the thousands of lives managed by this system daily. The primary danger to aviation safety is the stigma that punishes pilots, mechanics, and controllers for reporting anomalous hazards. If highly trained professionals learn that reporting an unknown object will jeopardize their careers, critical safety information is simply lost. The physical scar left in the 1,900-foot ceiling that afternoon eventually closed up, but it remains recorded in the statements of the witnesses as a distinct interaction between a high-energy object and our atmosphere, an event that both the government and the airline chose to ignore. The evidence points to a solid object demonstrating capabilities far beyond human technology, lingering inside highly restricted airspace. When the institutions tasked with our safety choose silence over investigation, the national airspace system remains deeply vulnerable to the unknown.